Let's get in the trenches here, Scott. We're going to go to Chinese internet. Showed some relative strength yesterday. So how do you play that kind of bounce?
Well, this group led us lower. This group was a group that broke down Baidu, which has been the leader of this group with Sina. Once they had the earnings and did that outside day, it's been a sell. But you can make a cute type of cash flow trade with the right strategy. So yesterday, these Chinese internet showed what I love to call a red dog reversal.
And I'm going to say, what is that other than something narcissistic from Scott?
It's more than just touting my name in a strategy. It's actually a reversal strategy that pays the community very well because it's a strategic plan. What it is when a stock makes a new low, trigger stops in a very oversold area, and then comes back above it. That's your buy point. You have a stop at the low of the day, and you can play a bounce. Let me show you how that happened with Baidu yesterday. First of all, this was the earnings day. This was that outside day. That was your sell signal. This was your second sell signal when it broke support. Look at this move lower. Okay, that's a 155 down to about 125. We talked about holding the 100-day, and that's what Baidu did yesterday. Most stocks try and hold that on the first time. So what it did is it broke this 127.36, hit the 100-day, came back above it. This was your buy right there with the stop at the low of the day. And if you did that, you made about 4 points. And now I do think this Baidu has room back to about 137, 138.
So don't sell any.
Well, I actually went long yesterday.
Okay.
Into that type of reversal trade. Sometimes these reversals lead to a really big move, or sometimes it's just a day and a half trade. And right now at this particular point, I do think it'll be at least a 3-day trade. I'm going to measure this move as it gets back to resistance. I think resistance will be 137 to 139, right around here. So this was your long. This will be your area to check the temperature on what type of bounce we get here.
And then what about Sina and Sohu? Because it's interesting because these guys don't really have exposure necessarily to the Eurozone debt crisis, to the Fed ceiling, to the Federal Reserve raising rates or not. They're sort of on their own. What about the other two stocks? Do they make good cash flow trades too?
Well, Sina also, that actually was really powerful yesterday. As you just saw at Baidu, it made a new low and came back above it. Sina didn't actually even make a new low. It held the previous day's low, showing relative strength. So if you look at Sina yesterday and you look at this area, this actually didn't make a new low yesterday, so that was a nice divergence to watch. So if you went long yesterday, I think you could add above this 113 area, and I do think it can get back to about 120. Now, if you fail to sell it up here, during this pattern here, which we tried to show you before the break, this would be the area to take the tradable bounce and salvage that trade, and then figure out a little bit more strategies down the road. But we do have more room to bounce here in these leading internet stocks. Right now, it's day one of a bounce. Usually you can get a few more days for cash flow.
But for an investor, keep in mind that these run really far and then also drop just as hard. So to just be careful if you're not a cash flow trader, right?
Yes, or if you have a long-term thesis, I hope you sold it when it technically broke those upper levels. And if you wanted to get involved yesterday in a tier one, you could do it for a little bit of a trade and maybe a longer-term hold if it does lead to a bigger move, which sometimes they do, not just for cash flow.
All right, let's get to some other